Government of Jamaica have indicated that they will reveal the identities of undisclosed beneficiaries of the Dr. Phillips era $250 billion write-off in taxes. Government of Jamaica will publish the names of at least 30,000 taxpayers who received approximately 250 billion Jamaican dollars in tax write-offs between the years 2014 and 2015. Whilst Dr. Nigel Clark, the Minister of Finance and Public Service, was not in charge of the Jamaican Treasury at the time when the decision was made to write off that huge sum of $250 billion in taxes as uncollectible. It is stated that he believes that Jamaicans should know exactly who benefited from this huge write-off. His argument is that this situation could raise questions about transparency in government and how responsible the government is with the monies that they are slated to collect from taxpayers. Dr. Nigel Clark mentioned that he will be taking a necessary course of action to ensure that the report about 86 companies that would have benefited since 2018 from a $4 billion in corporate income tax arrears been completely written off. In 2013, when the IMF forced Jamaica to put in place laws to govern tax write-offs and to remove ministerial discretion from these tax write-offs as well, a new requirement was put in place for the Minister of Finance to publish the details of tax write-offs in the Jamaica Gazette. For the first 2 years, 2014 and 2015, the $250 billion which was written off was reported across 7 Jamaica Gazette publications. However, they only stated that the figures were uncollectible and that they were related to public bodies or taxpayers as the sole clues as to who benefited from this major tax write-off in Jamaica. Since that time, more gazettes have been published, but not all of the names of the companies nor the individuals who benefited from this tax write-off have been published. Many will see this as a shortcoming and will raise questions. According to Dr. Nigel Clark, there is a legitimate public interest in this information being made public, given the size of the tax amount that is involved. But according to Nigel Clark, they will address this shortcoming. Nigel Clark has stated that as soon as is practicable, the tax commissioner will publish the disaggregated information about all of the taxpayers who benefited from this tax relief in 2014. This will be done in hard copies and made available at the Tax Administration, Jamaica, the Ministry of Finance, and it will also be available on both websites. The policy, which emerged as a means through which the government could get rid of old tax arrears owed by private entities and individuals up to the period of December 31st, 2010 and up to the period of December 31st, 2012, will be the information that will be published for all of Jamaicans to be aware of same. However, Dr. Nigel Clark did not respond to a request for specific explanation of his role as finance minister in the 2019 tax write-off for the Facey Commodity Company, which is a member of the Facey Group that he was in charge of as CEO between 2009 and 2013. The company was cleared of $44 million in interest as part of a similar broad brush policy. Amendments to the Tax Collection Act in 2013 empowers the tax commissioner to recommend write-offs once cases fit any number of circumstances outlined in the regulations. That would also require an individual assessment of each taxpayer. However, the problem of uncollectible tax arrears was so acutely, densely, and intractably complicated, as stated by Dr. Nigel Clark. A case-by-case approach was insufficient to resolve the problem. According to the minister, a brute force approach was also necessary. He stated that the policy was formally named Broad Brush. In 2011, the Tax Administration Jamaica had $230 billion in old tax debts, a figure that increased to $408 billion in 2 years, and later related to a 145,271 taxpayer accounts. Information in relation to the use of the cutoff date provision by the tax commissioner has not been published. Whilst totals were published in the Jamaica Gazette, neither government nor non-government taxpayers were listed, as it was deemed impractical to do so. According to Dr. Nigel Clark, listing each broad brush taxpayer arrears tax write-off would easily exhaust 10,000 pages. According to one of the Jamaica Gazettes that was published on May 15, 2015, $68 billion was cleared for public bodies. In June 2015, another gazette shows that 99 billion Jamaican dollars in arrears were written off for taxpayers other than public bodies. Large taxpayers, which includes private entities with annual sales in excess of $1 billion, or public bodies with high tax PAYE contributions, benefited from a write-off of $30 billion based on a publication that was done in December 2014. Up to the period of 2010, a large taxpayer was classified as one with revenue in excess of $500 million. A further $25 billion was written off in 2014 in relation to taxpayers other than public bodies. This shows that many of the entities are not just big businesses, but some of the everyday persons and the small businesses also benefited. It is puzzling why something like that would happen. And this is what was stated by a member of government in reaction to the news that most broad brush beneficiaries were never revealed to the public. And the person stated that it makes you wonder. Time, Dr. Peter Phillips had supported a decision to reveal beneficiaries. Churches, schools, non-governmental organizations, and some of the larger corporate players were reportedly among the private entities that received tax write-offs for 2014 and 2015. Some of the tax arrears were linked to problems with the revenue collector's old international computer tax accounting system, which created reconciliation problems when a new system was implemented. Prior to 2020, payments that were made by taxpayers were sometimes inaccurately allocated to the wrong periods, which resulted in erroneous liabilities. Balances that were transferred from the old paper ledgers sometimes did not reflect the correct balances for periods, as the ledgers had missing return amounts, such as credits or refunded amounts. The Tax Administration Jamaica also needed to clear its books of arrears that could not be collected for reasons including that persons were out of business, or that businesses had closed, or that taxpayers had passed away, or that persons had migrated. Therefore, the broad brush write-off was intended to remedy all of these issues and create a new slate going forward. Dr. Nigel Clark further explained that a large stock of tax arrears resulted in an overestimation of revenue forecasts and overcommitment in expenditure, which led to future debt accumulation. In response to the reason for the broad brush write-offs not being listed, Dr. Peter Phillips, who was then the finance minister from 2012 to 2016, stated that he could not recall making a decision on what was published. According to Dr. Peter Phillips, he remembers that the general principle was that debt that was not collectible and debt that had not been collected going up to 10 years, in some instances 7 years in others, that was decided that the TAJ should have the authority to determine that a debt was uncollectible, to write off, and that it would be gazetted. The entire thing would have been recommendations coming from the Tax Administration of Jamaica. The power rested with the Tax Administration of Jamaica. The minister only had the power to say yes or no, and I do not recall ever making a decision on the publication of same. Dr. Peter Phillips mentioned that he supports the decision of the current administration to publish the details of each taxpayer that benefited from broad brush write-offs. Dr. Peter Phillips also went on to state that he thinks the fullest amount of transparency in the matter would benefit the public. In a previous response, Dr. Nigel Clark admitted that the tax write-off system needed to be more transparent, and that the administration would immediately start making changes to ensure that the tax write-off system in Jamaica was transparent. He also stated that he will direct that where an order is published in the Jamaica Gazette on the tax write-off determinations made by the Commissioner General, that they will upload the issue of the Gazette to the Ministry's website within 30 days of it being printed. To Dr. Nigel Clark, the Gazette does not state precisely why each company gets a write-off. It merely states that the tax boss has determined the sums to be cleared as uncollectible. Dr. Nigel Clark further stated that the Finance Ministry would examine whether the write-offs can be categorized by the specific criteria in the regulations on which the Commissioner General made the write-off determination. The Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation is the entity that reported benefited from a tax write-off of $1.5 billion in 2018. The name could not be ascertained from a search of available public records. The name of the entity was recently revealed by Finance Minister Dr. Nigel Clark. The JRF is a debt collection agency that acquired the largest portion of a distressed debt that was held by the Financial Sector Adjustment Company and sold by the Jamaican government as part of the reconstruction of the financial sector 20 years ago. Dr. Nigel Clark stated that the amount that was written off under the broad brush policy, which allowed the tax commissioner to recommend the clearing of debts accumulated up to the period ending December 31, 2010 for non-government entities. Jamaica Redevelopment Foundation Incorporated received a tax write-offs for periods relating to 2003, 2004, 2005, 2006, and 2010. 97% of this tax was in relation to the period 2003 to 2006. The original tax over those years amounted to $386,840,506. Interest on that amount amounted to $1,121,670,279.65. This totals $1,490,510,785.65. Now like, comment, share, and subscribe. Let me know what you think about this new development, where the current government is expected to publish all of 30,000 names of taxpayers that benefited from 2014 and 2015 tax write-offs in the amount of approximately 250 billion Jamaican dollars. Please leave your feedback down below. As it stands, the Jamaican people are still not aware of all of the companies and individuals who would have benefited from this huge tax write-off in 2014 and 2015. Neither are there any Jamaicans who are aware of the information that would have been used to determine that this tax amount is uncollectible. Do you agree that the tax system is currently not transparent, and this system of write-offs for taxes for both individuals and companies should be made more transparent? It is our money as Jamaicans, and this money should be used for the benefit and for the development of Jamaica. And if a taxpayer is able to pay, they should pay. And if a tax write-off is being given, it should be made public. And it should be done in a way that is transparent and a way that shows that the government is both responsible and accountable to the Jamaican people. Or to share the content across various social media platforms and in whatever way you can. Of course, remember to subscribe and join the family as we explore various news-related stories and try to educate the populace. Thanks for watching.